eating healthy is so important, and it really makes a big difference in your life. Welcome to the new people, and welcome to the ones that are always here anyways. So we have our amazing dietitian here. I will pass it on to her in a minute, but we're going to have two amazing recipes, easy to make, and she will explain the importance of eating certain foods. They're going to help us. So I'm going to pass it on to you. That way you can.
Hello, I'm Morgan. I'm the dietitian. I actually work inpatient in the cancer center over there, but then we come over to help Chef Zoe with this.
Yes.
So I'll kind of interject as Chef Zoe is demoing some of the recipes, but today's theme is the Mediterranean diet. I'm sure everyone's at least familiar, heard of what it is. I don't even necessarily like that it's called a diet because I don't think diets necessarily work for everyone, but the Mediterranean diet is just essentially a healthy way of eating. We have a great handout here if you guys flip to that other page. And I stole a little food pyramid that's at the top of the page there on the left from the internet. But it starts at the bottom, and the keys to the Mediterranean diet are essentially healthy eating and then exercise. So it's a plant-based food diet as well as seafood, and then limiting our processed foods and our red meats. A great thing about this diet is it's an anti-inflammatory diet as well, not because of anything special that you do, but just because of the healthy foods that you're eating. So I'll kind of talk about some of the ingredients that we're using and why they're anti-inflammatory and good for us as we go.
Yeah, I'm excited because I love healthy food. And when I was making these recipes, of course, they're recipes from Holly Clegg. Really, really great recipes. What I like about her recipes, they're so simple to make. And we utilize most of the ingredients that we already have at home. We don't have to go to the store and grab some stuff. And I'm going to mention some of the ingredients for this recipe that we're going to go ahead and get started with. It's a tomato bruschetta, which is an amazing appetizer. And it is so simple to make. For this recipe, it actually asks to put it in the oven to toast the bread. But I'm going to show you another way that I would do it, because if I'm in a hurry, I want to make this recipe as easy as possible and as quick as possible. So let's go ahead and get started. Ingredients are really simple. We have French bread. We have minced garlic. We have tomatoes, Kalamata olives, which is the dark ones, the black ones. They're so tasty and so good.
They're delicious.
The bad thing about cutting those things is when I'm chopping those, I just want to put like 3 or 4 in my mouth. They're so good. We have, of course, onions. We're going to utilize red onions, but if you like green onions will be a great option as well. Balsamic vinegar. You can do apple cider vinegar if you like. And olive oil, of course. And something that I love and I grow in my own backyard, which is fresh basil. You can do parsley as well, and I'm going to give you other options as well as we go and make this recipe. Let's go ahead and get started. Mm-hmm. So instead of putting this in the oven, I thought about a different way of making it much easier and quicker, which is this skillet right here, or you can do any skillet, saute pan or whatever. It's getting nice and hot. And I'm going to have my sous chef here help me. And while I cook, she's going to explain certain things. And if you have any questions at the end of the class about certain ingredients, if she knows the answer, she's ready to give it to you. Right, Morgan? Yep. Okay, so tomato bruschetta is just basically a small appetizer. You find it in a lot of different celebrations. If you go, it's just a small appetizer, a small bite that you can just grab it and have it with a really nice drink, such as water, right? So you know what I mean, right? Water, lemonade. Basic ingredients that we have is garlic, bread, tomatoes, and olive oil. I really like the olive oil ingredient because it really gives the bread some really nice kind of like toasty texture as well, flavor, right? Yes. And the flavor is so good.
And olive oil is actually a huge part of the Mediterranean diet. It's high in monounsaturated fats, which are the good fats. So those can be anti-inflammatory. So they recommend 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil a day. Extra virgin is the best. I actually just recently read an article. I don't know if you've seen, but like a lot of the grocery store olive oils that we buy, they found that like only 25% of them are actually extra virgin olive oil. Yeah, you're nodding your head. A lot of them are like soybean oil or vegetable oil, so we're not even buying, we're trying to be healthy and buy extra virgin olive oil to cook with, and a lot of times it's not even the real deal. So that's something to be conscious of when you're buying it. Olive oil is the real stuff. I was reading before is a lot more expensive, but it's definitely worth it.
So if you see an olive oil that is like a really inexpensive, then don't be surprised that it's going to be something that is not so great for you.
Yep.
I don't know. I go to certain stores, specialty stores, to get my olive oil.
So that's probably.
And I usually get the one. I love the Spain olive oils. Italy, of course. But you still have to pay really like something more expensive if you want something really good, right?
It said like $10 a liter is usually the real stuff. It also has to say extra virgin olive oil and cold press.
Cold press. Yes. So let me tell you, for extra virgin olive oil, I don't like to use it for my cooking because it's going to reduce the benefits of the oil. So that we have to be conscious of that. If you utilize extra virgin olive oil, it is better that you drizzle on top of your food before you eat it instead of putting it on something like the skillet.
Right.
Because the heat will reduce the benefits of the oil.
Yes.
So if you're buying something so expensive, do not put it in the heat because it's going to lose its benefits anyways. So too much blah, 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 but it's good blah, 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 right? Yes.
What do you recommend for stir-frying?
Well, for that, canola oil would be good. Olive oil, regular olive oil. But for the extra virgin olive oil, if you're spending a lot of money buying something like that, I would definitely recommend it that you utilize it for salads and dressings, but not so much for cooking. So, yes. I'm sorry?
What about coconut oil?
Absolutely. And with all the oils, I'm not a dietitian. We have an expert here. She will tell you that it depends if you do the refined or unrefined. The refined is going to be more coconut oil, but the unrefined is going to be, if you like coconut oil in your eggs, then I don't know. Because
and coconut oil is higher in saturated fat. So again, I think coconut oil is a great thing, but it depends on what you're specifically looking for in your diet.
And sometimes we go crazy with coconut oil. I remember when it first came out, you want to put it in every single dish that you cook. You still have to be careful and balance how much you're eating, right? Regardless if it's a vegetable oil or not, you still have to be really careful with the amounts that you consume on a daily basis.
Right.
So kind of like mix it a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started. This is getting nice and hot.
Yep.
And this is the way I would make it at home. Of course, you take this recipe with you and you can make it just the way it's on the recipe, but this is a really easy way. So we have some bread here that you want to come over here so you can help me with this? So look, I'm going to put some oil on the pan, and with this brush, kind of like just mix it all together, make sure that it gets on all the, let me put it high. We're just going to toast it on the pan instead of put it in the oven. If it's summertime, if you're making something so refreshing, you don't want to put the oven on. You maybe want to do it like this. Another way is putting your bread on the grill, if somebody's cooking out, before they put meat. You don't want to put it on raw meat. So go ahead and do your bread first, and then cross-contamination. So we want to wait until it's nice and hot. And I'm not going to put the garlic with the oil just because it's going to burn it. I don't want that burnt taste or bitter taste. So I'm just going to wait a little bit until it's a little hot. Then we put the garlic, and we do the same thing with the garlic, Morgan.
So one thing I like about this recipe is if you look at the ingredients, they're all natural, fresh ingredients. So these are all going to be good and compliant with the Mediterranean diet. Even the bread, the Mediterranean diet's based in Italy and Greece, essentially, is where it's from. But those people over there, they eat a lot of bread. It's just when they eat their bread, it's just normal bread, and they usually eat it with a little bit of olive oil and not, putting a bunch of high-calorie, fatty dips with it or eating it the whole meal. It's just customary as their appetizer. So it's not that bread is a bad thing.
It smells good already, right?
It smells delicious.
Okay, so that's what you do, and let me turn it down a little bit. We're just going to let it get really nice and toasty. It smells so good already. So this is way faster than put in your oven at 400, put in the bread, and if you're just going to make the bread, why even turn the oven on? You can do it on the grill, you can do it on the stove, right? It's looking nice.
Yeah.
It's looking really nice. So let me turn it down because we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step, which is getting a nice small bowl. And we are utilizing tomatoes. You can do cherry tomatoes. You can do just a whole tomato. And make sure that you don't use the seeds because it's going to create a lot of moisture because you add in a little bit of salt. So it's going to make your bread soggy, right? Are you going to be flipping my bread, sous chef?
Yeah. I need some,
I'm just
I need some gloves.
Here
Or
you
this.
go.
Can I use this?
Yeah, you can use this one. Kind of like flip it around so we won't get burned garlic in there. So I have one tomato here, and the way I'm going to cut it to get the seeds out, I'm just going to cut both ends, right? And I'm going to get a little small knife, like a paring knife, and I'm just going to go around just like this. And what I do with this, I usually save it and use it for my soups. I put some jalapenos, cilantro, onions, and garlic in a blender, and I use this for my salsa. So you don't waste any product. All this is good, right? You don't want to waste any.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's
Tomatoes are one
put
of
it
the
here.
things that are high on the Mediterranean diet. They're high in phytochemicals, the phytochemical lycopene. I'm sure you guys have heard about tomatoes in the news for that. A lot of anti-cancer benefits and research out there on lycopene. Tomatoes are also really high in vitamin C, which also have anti-cancer effects.
Awesome. I liked everything you just said. Okay, so I'm going to give you a bowl so you can put the bread, and that's ready. Okay, so we get the other. This is the easiest way of getting the seeds out of the tomato, right? Was that cool? That's really cool. And I'm going to get this dry because it can be a little dangerous just to cut the tomatoes.
Do you
Put
want
it
to turn
in
this
my-
off?
Yeah, let's go ahead and turn it off. And if you wet this towel and then kind of like clean it because we're going to use this pan for the salmon. It's going to be an amazing recipe as well. Thank you so much. We're going to put the bread over here. The fun thing about this class is you're going to try the recipe and maybe make sure that you make it at home this weekend. It's a great weekend. Mother's Day is coming up. This is a great idea for the moms because you want to cook something healthy for them, right? So this is an easy recipe that you, if you're a mom, you can enjoy as well. So let's go ahead and cut the tomatoes, and I'm just going to cut it just like this. If you want, you can actually put this in the food processor and just kind of like cut it like that, right? I'm going to get a bigger knife. If you want to do cherry tomatoes, that's totally fine. But the main thing is to keep these ingredients fresh. That you really need to do.
Another thing I was reading about tomatoes, and another way to make it pretty too, is to use different colored tomatoes.
Oh, yeah.
And they all have about the same vitamin panel. They're all going to be just as high in everything.
And they're going to look beautiful, right? You can cut them in half, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, we
Add some
cut more
color.
tomato. And you end up with something like this. Just take it off and save it for your sauce or maybe your soups. We don't want to waste anything. So in the meantime, since I'm cutting the tomatoes, why don't you help me by adding the onions and the black olives? It feels good when somebody helps you in the kitchen, right? Especially when you've been cooking since 6 in the morning. I was so ready for you. So for that, if you want a juicier mixture, which you still have to be really careful because you're going to create a lot of moisture for the bread, but if you really like it, you put the tomatoes in a container and add some salt. It's going to help bring all the moisture and the water out of the tomatoes, and you're going to end up with something juicier than that. But if not, just go ahead and add it here.
So if you guys think of this diet and kind of all the ingredients we talked about being anti-inflammatory, and then we think about the American diet, what are some of the things that we think are opposite that we probably eat a lot of?
I have a nice
Sugar, bread, all those refined carbs, butter, yep, high fat foods that aren't high in fat in the good kind, which are going to be a lot of fried foods, fast foods that a lot of people are eating, processed foods, even frozen meals and things like that can get really high in fat, really high in sodium, all things that are going to inflame us, which not only cancer, but Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, Parkinson's. I mean, they found so much research that's all tied to our diet and the way we eat.
And for those that don't want to do the bread, because sometimes bread can cause, well, not inflammation, but sometimes it's kind of heavy.
Yes.
They can definitely do something like zucchini. You can put them in the oven, or you can, instead of you do the same thing as you did with the bread, cut it and maybe saute it quickly and make it nice and crispy. Zucchini, yellow squash, maybe eggplant,
Yeah, I was gonna say
and
eggplant.
utilize it like that instead of doing bread. Because I've done that before, and I think it's a great option for those that really want to keep it vegetarian, right?
Low
That's
carb.
a great option. Yeah, that's a low carb. So tomatoes, olives, onions, and I'm going to add some olive oil. What else are we adding? I'm going to let my sous chef remember. Basil, right?
Basil.
Okay, so if I add the salt right now, it's going to create a lot of water. So therefore, maybe whenever they're ready, if you want some nice salty taste, not too salty, just add a little bit, a pinch of salt to each individual bruschetta.
Yes.
Right? So I'm going to cut some basil. And I was thinking when I was making this recipe, I love basil. I have it in my own backyard with my garden. But I will definitely do a combination of basil and parsley. If you do both, I think it's a great option as well, right? Not just
Yes.
one. Or maybe if you don't like parsley, do one or the other. Yeah.
Another thing with the Mediterranean diet is that, as opposed to, not that, adding a little salt is great for flavor, but they flavor their foods with other things. So the basil and the parsley and the onion and other herbs and spices. There's a lot of ways to make flavorful food without pouring salt and pepper on it.
Oh, yeah. That's why I love herbs. It's kind of like the magic touch. Instead of adding sodium to your diet, this is the perfect way to go. It's really going to add some spices and herbs. It's always so good to have. I know it's kind of expensive to buy herbs sometimes, but if you have your little garden at home, it is the best way to go. I've saved so much money like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so
gonna be
easy to
fresher
grow.
and
Yeah.
Better than getting it from the grocery
Nice
store.
organic. You know what? I was making this recipe. I thought about putting some rosemary to the pan with the olive oil and the garlic, and it's going to give some extra flavor to the oil, and it's going to be really, really good. I really like rosemary. Okay, so this is ready. And what I was going to show you is don't just make the bruschetta and just pour easy, boring bruschetta, right? We're going to make like a platter, like an antipasto, without the cured meats and stuff like that, but it's going to look so amazing on the table. So I have some bread, some fresh basil here. I have this bread here. And I'm going to have you help me put some of this stuff, and we're going to put it over here.
On the bread?
Yes, because I'm going to mention other ingredients. If I was to make this recipe, I want to make something else and make it really fun, especially for this coming weekend. I would definitely add something, a nice platter like this, clean platter. We can add some strawberries, and then they can come and grab small bites of something. But you also have the option of the fruit, right? Fruit is so good for you.
Yeah, any of these berries, strawberries, also very high in those antioxidant, anti-cancer fighting ingredients.
So that's why I
The
was,
fresher, the better.
yes, I was thinking about strawberries, blueberries, and kiwis. Usually at home, that's what I have a setup of like trays with fruit. And you'd be surprised. Kids really, I know it's not ice cream and cookies, but they really come and grab some of the fruit, and it's a really nice display that you make. So you put blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. We don't have raspberries right now, but I think that's a great option as well.
And adds more color as well.
Yes. We have some kiwi. I love kiwi, right? You're adding something green in there as well. Ooh, those look really pretty. So, you did a great job. We just put those there. Are you going to take this and eat it?
Yes, I will.
You were almost crying when I took this away from you. I saw that. Okay, so we have some kiwis here. Look how beautiful you can make something, right? A platter with different things. So we have some fresh cherry tomatoes. We can just put some on the side. Or we can definitely do tomatoes. And I want you to add, was this my mess or your mess,
was mine.
Morgan? Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of balsamic vinegar, right?
Another way to add good flavor.
Yeah, and we didn't add any of this.
No.
But of course, you can add it in other ingredients. So maybe just mix it with the spoon, with the little one. Was it over here? Okay, so
Oh, this?
yes, just mix it. Put a little bit of salt and pepper. If you, well, I was gonna ask you, is it possible, or is
sprinkle
it?
some?
Do you approve that we do a little bit of cheese here? Is it okay?
Yes, everything
Okay.
in moderation is okay.
She approves. Is it mozzarella? I mean,
Yes.
what? Okay. Because if we do that, mozzarella will be so amazing to add to this
Yes.
recipe. You can add a little bit of basil as well. Let me just add some of that. And some black pepper. Oh, that looks so good.
You're going to make me put gloves on today.
Yes, please help me, Morgan. Let me put the other ones here. So you have a combination of tomatoes. Feta cheese will be a great one,
Yeah,
right?
feta cheese would be really good.
I'm gonna add some black olives. And I'm just giving you little ideas and tips that you can actually do whenever you make this bruschetta. Don't just make one little thing. You can actually accommodate with other ingredients. Good, that was really good.
Here we go. And this one was easy. She didn't even cut anything.
No, you
as
just
opposed
put
to
all the
cutting
stuff
the
together.
tomato and
You can put feta cheese, you can put mozzarella cheese, and it's gonna look really beautiful as well.
yum.
Yeah, mix it all together because you're creating something, another recipe that is gonna be really good, and it has the olive oil, it has
Yep.
the tomatoes,
Tomatoes and the
uh,
olives and
basil. You can do
yeah.
parsley,
Yep.
right?
So do those little mozzarella balls?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I do, and it looks so beautiful when you make a display like this. So, yeah, absolutely. So we can put this here. What else? I have blueberries. Okay, so cucumbers. I really like cucumbers with this. Let me just clean Morgan's mess really quick, and then we
I
can.
didn't have gloves on then.
And then we can continue. Because we clean as we go, Morgan. See, that's when they want to help me at home in the kitchen, I'm like, stay away. When I'm done, you can come and clean because they make more mess than what I start with. Okay, so we have some cucumbers. What I did, I just, with the potato or apple peeler, I just got some really nice thin pieces and strips, right? You can just do this, roll them. I don't want to give you work to do, but it's just ideas that you can actually just, you can put some cucumbers here. Instead of just dicing them, that looks really pretty. So absolutely, just do this. Good job. Okay, so cucumbers are refreshing. They're good for you.
Yeah, high water content. I mean, they're very low calorie and they're a good snack, something crunchy to eat.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you. When I'm craving something, sometimes I want low carb. I definitely do the cucumbers, carrots, lemon juice, a little bit of olive oil, and a pinch of sea salt or the Himalayan salt. And that is a great snack for something low carb, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our first recipe, which is pretty easy to make, right? With ingredients that most of us have at home. And you can make something just like that. I'll save this fruit for you, Morgan.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's ready, and I'm gonna go ahead and get my olive oil. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna drizzle some on top. And if you would like as well, what I like to do for something like this, for a platter like this, I like to just roast some fresh garlic, like cloves. Just roast them with the bread and just put them there with a little bit of olive oil, salt, and lemon. It is so wonderful as well. I've heard that eating one garlic, well, one of my aunts really do this. One garlic in the morning followed by 8 ounces of water, it really helps you stay really healthy and good digestion, inflammation, and all those things, right?
It's a good, detoxifier.
I think I'm going to start doing that because they have those pills, right?
They do have pills. Yeah, I don't know about an
Yes.
actual garlic. You might have bad breath all day.
Do you think so? My aunt,
Would she
I've never
swallow it?
smelled the garlic.
Oh.
Yeah, she eats the whole thing. Just swallows the whole thing. She just swallows it.
Right.
And she's super healthy. She's in her like late 50s. Her skin, everything. I don't know if it's a garlic, but I mean, she looks pretty good for her age.
It's definitely not a bad thing to eat.
So I'm gonna go ahead and put my stuff here. If you notice, I put my basil in water, and this will keep it way longer. When I cut my herbs at home, I have like glass water glasses
jars?
with right by the window, and I have them there available to cook for whatever I'm cooking. I just toss some fresh herbs in there, and I've made this test with my herbs. I have some that lasted more than 2 weeks, and they still look beautiful and so fresh.
Mhm.
I didn't think they were going to last that
Yeah.
long. Just by the window in the kitchen, and they still like really, really nice.
I do that with kale when I buy it and it's been a couple days. I'll cut off the stems and put it in a glass of water and leave the bag over it, and they spruce back up and get crispy. So
We're going to go ahead and move on to the next recipe, because the next recipe, we are utilizing something that is so good for inflammation, which is salmon.
yes,
So
yeah.
okay.
Again, very high. I know I couldn't.
I'm gonna clean this, bring it over here so you
Okay,
can actually talk
perfect.
about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So salmon's another thing that is on the Mediterranean diet. They recommend at least eating fish twice a week, any of those fatty fish. So salmon, mackerel, tuna. I believe that's all on your handout as well. But that's a big part of it. Obviously, a great source of protein. It's going to be lower in calories, super high in the monounsaturated fats, a lot of omega-3s. We know that research says that omega-3s raises our HDL and lowers our LDL. It can also lower your triglycerides, so very good for heart health. High in B vitamins, high in potassium as well. A serving of salmon has more potassium than the same serving as a banana.
Okay, so roasted seasoned salmon. We're gonna talk about the spices. They're gonna go in here. And you know what? When I was smelling the fish, it was baking in the oven earlier. It's outstanding. This recipe is so good. But I'm gonna combine it with other ingredients that I think are gonna minimize the strong flavor of the spices.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have some arugula and some tomatoes, okay? So for this recipe, we have chili powder, we have cinnamon. Oh, it smells so good with the cinnamon. Everybody likes cinnamon, right? Yes, right? Okay, brown sugar, cumin, olive oil, salt and pepper, right? Simple, so simple. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with let me get this little spoon. This is kind of like my favorite one. This is getting nice and hot, right?
Yeah.
Put a little more hot. Again, instead of going in the oven, unless you're making a lot. If you're only making this for you, I don't think you're gonna want to turn the oven on to put one steak in the oven, right? One fillet in the oven.
Yeah.
So maybe just go ahead and use the saute pan like we're gonna do today, and it's gonna be fine.
Could you grill it also?
Absolutely, yes. You can grill it as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix the ingredients. Brown sugar.
Again, except for the brown sugar, in a little, it's totally fine to use. There's a little amount that you're going to be eating on top of it, but all these are, natural herbs and spices, so.
Well, I was going to ask you, instead of the brown sugar, because I utilize a lot of my coconut sugar, would that be okay as well?
Yeah.
And it's brown. So coconut sugar, even honey will be a great option as well. So if you like honey, it's okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like you're saying, it's just a little amount of sugar that you're adding. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
But if you definitely don't want any sugar, you don't even have to add it. Just add the spices and you're going to be fine. So cinnamon goes in here. Chili powder. And of course, if you like it super spicy, because spicy stuff is good for you as well, cayenne pepper.
They say it raises your metabolism because, your body's heating up and you burn more calories that way.
We learned so many new things with you. Oh my goodness. So good. Okay, so let me go ahead and just mix all this together. I was thinking this recipe will be great with any type of protein that even with chicken will be good, right?
Yeah.
So we have our fish here. Let me see if I have a longer plate. Let me do this one. I need some space here. Okay, so I'm gonna add a little bit on the bottom. Now I'm gonna add some here. Is that burning already? Okay, let me turn it down. And you can add this olive oil. Good. So make sure that you press a little bit, that way the spices can stay there and you don't lose everything on the pan. So you want it hot, medium hot, just because you want to sear it, and then you want to leave it like 2 minutes and then flip it and let it finish cooking instead of flipping it too many times, because it's gonna overcook. Yeah. So let's just put it like this. Be gentle. Yeah, well, you want to sear it in the beginning, and then whenever you flip it, leave it like that, like medium high, and then turn it down a little bit.
Smells
You're
delicious.
you're gonna realize if it's too hot, you're gonna turn it down. It kind of like comes automatically when you think it's too much smoke in there, but it smells wonderful, doesn't it? So what I'm gonna do, I have some tomatoes here. It's getting nice and seared. I mentioned tomatoes in the beginning, so take advantage of the heat and put some tomatoes. As soon as you add the tomatoes, it's gonna reduce the heat a little bit, which is okay. That's totally fine. Oh, be careful. I have, what do we do with the garlic? Okay, we don't have it here. Okay, let me do this. Tomatoes.
Do you want the cloves?
Yes. We can add some garlic cloves as well. Yeah. Wow, they're dancing now. Good. Okay, so it smells really good. So that's going to create like a different recipe. You add in tomatoes. You can add some zucchini, diced zucchini.
Yeah.
You name it. You can add a lot of
Yeah.
different vegetables here. So let's check this out. I'm going to turn it. And I'm gonna turn the heat down. Now, if you have gas stove, you still have to be really careful. It's more intense, right? But if you have this one that you can, with the gas, you can control the fire a little better than with this one, right? So I'm gonna go really low, okay? Nice. Tomatoes are looking so nice. And it smells like cozy, homemade, right?
You can smell like that little bit of brown sugar and cinnamon.
Absolutely. So for this recipe, of course, we had another recipe, which is pecans or walnuts.
Yes, spicy walnuts, right? Or
And,
pecans.
Yes. So what I did, I wanted to mention this. That way you guys can try this pecans. I didn't have walnuts, but what I did with the pecans, I added exactly the same ingredients that I added for my fish. I added a little bit of olive oil and brown sugar, cinnamon, but I added a little bit of cayenne pepper, and I put them in the oven at 400 or 375 just to get all the flavors incorporated. And I end up with something like this that you can definitely put on top of your fish. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, you can put that on top of fish. Also, if you make it for the week, you can put it on salads, or like when you have the salmon left over the next day with a salad. Those would be great in place of something like croutons to give you something crunchy.
Absolutely. So let me check. When you're doing fish, my salmon, I like to do it at 145 internal temperature. It's still not, it's 125. But you want to make sure that it's cooked all the way. A lot of people like it raw, but just keep in mind, if you didn't buy it from a good source, then don't eat it raw. Just make sure that you cook it at 145 internal temperature. So if you don't have a thermometer at home, I would recommend that you always keep one next to your grill, next to your stove, because it's a great tool to have in the kitchen.
Yeah. Also,
And you can find them anywhere, any any store. I cannot say names, but any store.
Yeah.
Really.
I'm not sure how many patients have family members who have gone through chemo or post-chemo, but that's also super important to be sure you're cooking any meat all the way if you've just been through that, just for food safety-wise. Any little
Absolutely.
infection you could pick up with low blood counts and that thing. So that's something to be conscious of.
Absolutely. And so as you can see, the thick part of the fish, That's what I need to focus on as soon as I put my thermometer. I'm not going to check on the thinnest part of the fish. I'm going to go to the thickest part of the fish, right? It's looking pretty beautiful.
Beautiful. And then you could pair this, if you were going to eat this for dinner with, there's already veggies in there. You're absolutely able to add more veggies or do something like quinoa or brown rice. Just put it on a bed of that, and then you have a little bit of everything in there. Whole grains are going to be higher in fiber. Those are part of the Mediterranean diet as well. That's one of the reasons they say the Mediterranean diet helps diabetes, which I'm sure we all know is affected by somebody. Fiber kind of helps stable out your blood sugar. That'd be a good addition.
Great. So I was going to say, this piece of fish is like about 6 ounces of the fish. This could be for 2 people, right?
Yeah.
This is way too much.
Yeah.
If I eat it by myself, it'll be way too much.
Yes. So serving size of fish or any meat you're eating is about the size of the palm of your hand. They say 3 ounces. And a hand more like mine, not like a large male's. So maybe not yours.
So even though it's good for you, you cannot be. Yeah.
Yeah, everything in moderation. Portion control is a huge part of, losing weight and a healthy diet as well.
Yeah, and keeping in mind it's for inflammation. You don't want to end up feeling like you're really
Bloated and overdid it.
Yeah. Put in my tomatoes on top. And the fun part about this fish is that I'm all about presentation. And I think arugula is going to add something really good to this recipe as well as presentation. It's going to make it look really nice. We needed something green. But if you have an iron skillet just like this, if you don't have one, maybe you want to get one because it's beautiful just to present it on the table when it's not hot, of course. You don't want to bring it to the table when it's hot. But it looks so beautiful and rustic. And I think instead of getting another dish dirty, you can just serve it like this and let everybody serve themselves with this pan, right? Let's check. It's looking pretty good. So you know what I love? Putting my cheese on the pan like this. What I do is, I don't know if you guys are familiar. Is queso fresco okay for you? Is it healthy for you? Is it not too? The sodium.
Yeah,
right?
probably the sodium content.
Okay. What is a good white cheese that you would recommend that I cook that it's not going to be so bad?
Mozzarella?
Mozzarella, okay. I'm just saying because what I do with my pan, I put a queso fresco in the middle, and I put olive oil, whatever herbs you have, rosemary, whatever herbs that you have, and a bunch of cherry tomatoes, the yellow ones, green, red, and I put it in the oven at 375, and I let that roast really well, or 400. And it's a great, great appetizer just to put it on the table with the melted cheese and herbs and olive oil.
Be delicious.
Yes, but I don't know if you would approve that.
I mean, everything else is fresh, and it's much better making something like that at home than buying it in a jar and taking it. So if you're going to make it, it's probably going to taste better homemade, and then it's also going to be at least somewhat healthier.
I agree.
So, yeah.
And if you want to go to the next, if you want to really do something amazing, you can put turmeric to the cheese. It's going to look yellow. It's going to look really beautiful, and it's good for you.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah. It's a good alternative to yellow cheese.
So, that looks beautiful, right? And you can just do a little bit of olive oil, of course.
What's your favorite brand of queso fresco?
So this is the salmon recipe. You can actually make it look beautiful with other ingredients such as arugula and some cherry tomatoes. Instead of you just putting it in the oven or doing just the fish itself, you are creating a second recipe or a much healthier recipe because you're incorporating something green and tomatoes. Like I said, you can do zucchini as well. But this is beautiful. Absolutely spinach. You can do a combination of spinach and arugula. So both of those will be great for this. And you add the arugula like maybe 3 minutes before you turn it off. That way you can cook some of it and stay. If you want to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese, can you do that?
Yes. Yeah, Parmesan
I can
would be
do
a good
this
one.
too. We can do Parmesan cheese, right? So this is our second recipe, and remember the other ingredient that I mentioned, or the third recipe?
Yeah.
We can actually do this amazing pecans on top. Y'all want to try this?
Yes.
Good.